Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist, and I'm guessing the reason you're watching this or any other one of my videos is because you really want to stop binge eating. Maybe if you're anything like I was, it's the thing you want more than anything in the world. I would have given up my job. I would have given up 15 years of my life if it meant I could be free from binge eating. That was how desperately I wanted it. So, if someone had had the audacity to say to me, maybe part of you wants to binge, I think I would have felt a pretty strong resistance to that suggestion. It wouldn't have made sense to me. I was so desperate to stop. So the idea of acknowledging that there could be a part of me that wants to binge, I think would have felt too threatening, actually, to my hope that one day I would be able to stop. However, when I acknowledged that there was a part of me that was getting something from binge eating, only then was I actually able to do anything about it. Now, I remember how compulsive it was. I remember feeling like there was absolutely nothing I could do, nothing that worked. I couldn't get myself to stop doing this behavior. And that is the very definition of what a compulsion is. The word compulsion means to act in a way that almost seems to be against your own will. Any sense of choice and freedom of decision making is out the window. That's what's so frightening about it. It feels like you're being controlled by this binge eating problem. How does something like binge eating become compulsive? And this is where it starts to get a little bit more complex because there's so many factors involved. Binge eating is a problem that we call a biopsychosocial problem. That means there are biological influences. There's research that shows that if you take rats and you mess up their biome, they start binge eating, and then you give them a fecal transplant and restore their natural biome, and the binge eating stops. So if we went purely by that research, binge eating is an issue of gut microbiome. There's also a small study that shows that deep brain stimulation can stop binge eating behaviors as well. So if we go just by that study, then maybe binge eating is some kind of neurological problem to do with dopamine. I know mine was influenced a lot by my hormonal problems. I saw how my binge eating experience and how I viscerally experienced these urges to binge changed and morphed as I underwent hormonal replacement. And now we haven't even gone on to talking about things like serotonin or endorphins or all kinds of other chemical cascades that go on when it comes to our appetites, particularly when it comes to binge eating, and maybe more so around specific types of food. The psycho part of that is to do with our psychology and our emotions. I know that my beliefs, I know that my scarcity mindset, I know that my struggle to tolerate and understand my emotions was also a part of what was driving me to seek escape in food. Then the social part of that, well, we're talking diet culture there, right? The pressure to lose weight and fit into a certain mold, and the judgment and the expectations and all the ways that your wider society and your small family cultures handle food impacts this problem. Rather than saying that you don't want to binge, it could be more accurate to say, I don't want to binge. I want this urge, this desire to binge eat to go away. That's what I thought recovery was for the longest time, because I did have experiences. I did have times where for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, I wouldn't experience an urge to binge. And during that time, I would forget what an urge to binge even felt like. And it was this shock, and it would seem to just blindside me when it came back. Before I knew it, I was binge eating again, and I didn't even know how it happened. I think it's important to differentiate between an urge to binge and a desire to binge. So I've experienced urges. That is the compulsive, the visceral, there is no other option. And those binges tend to be very visceral, a real sense of like you just want to get it done so you can move on with your day. Compare that to the desire to binge that felt a little bit more subtle. It was a sense of wanting to escape with food and soothe with food. And I'd be more inclined to want something like a slow binge, which was elongated over a period of time so that I could just lose myself and go unconscious. That desire felt more itchy, more of a sense of general unease, whereas the urge felt like it just took over everything. I couldn't think about anything else until I'd binged. Now, if you relate to the idea of having urges and desires, maybe the first place to start is starting to recognize when it's an urge and when it's a desire. And just name it. When you're trying to understand why you just binged, or the desire or the urge to binge, name it. I'm having an urge to binge. I'm having a desire to binge. I think the solutions are slightly different. The urge feels like the more biological response to me. That's the part that comes from restriction. So for me, once I got my hormones more balanced, and once I let go of trying to actively lose weight, those intense urges dissipated. And I didn't really experience them, or not with the same intensity that I had done. But the desire to binge didn't go away. The desire to binge was transformed by changing my relationship with my own emotions, changing my relationship with myself, being able to observe my thoughts and my patterns, and really approaching myself with self-compassion and non-judgment, figuring out how to get my needs met, being compassionate for my foibles and in all the ways that I felt like I just wasn't getting life right, or I wasn't doing things well enough. Now I know that almost whatever I do, I could do it better. Even these videos, sometimes I look at them and I think, I should have a fancy intro, and I should be doing more things with the editing, and maybe I should plan them much more strictly. But that's okay. And that's changed. I know I can do things better than I do. I know I can always put in more effort. I know I can always be kinder. I know I can always be more. And just because I don't manage to be all those things, that's okay. So the desire to binge really started to reduce with the self-acceptance work. So I think there's two parts here when we're talking about recovery. There's that physical, visceral, compulsive part, and there's this desire, this sense of dis-ease, unease with who we are. And that's the part that wants to compare and think everybody else has got their stuff together. Believe me, as a professional secret keeper, I can tell you they really don't. Anyway, stay curious, stay compassionate, and I will see you on the next episode. Or video even.